It was a clean carburation day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and busy if you can't tell. Takuma Sato's fastest. We got a packed show. Let's talk about it. All right, so first of all, right off the bat, I want to clean up the Stefan Wilson story. Steph went into surgery a couple of days ago. The surgery went well. He's walking around. Everything's looking good to go. He's going to be already on the road to 2024, and there's even a rumor that he might be able to make it to the track sometime this weekend, and we sure hope so. We'd love to see Steph out here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after that savage crash injured his vertebrae earlier this week. Here is an update that Stefan posted from his hospital bed here at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis.
Hey guys, so we had surgery last night. It was a pretty late surgery, but you know, coming out the other side of it, I'm really pleased with the results. Feel a lot better today. Being able to get on my feet and walk around. So yeah, the recovery journey starts now, and the race to recovery for 2024 Indy 500 is starting now. So I can't believe all the support that the fans have shown me over the last 72 hours. Just the support on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm so thankful. Thank you to everyone that's reached out, dropped messages. It means a lot. It's helped me keep my spirits high. Obviously so disappointed that I couldn't be racing this weekend. But you know, the focus is on the future, and thank you to all the partners, you know, for backing me and making this dream possible. So you know, thank you to Carekeepers, Sierra Pacific Windows, and the whole Cusick Motorsports and Drive My Bull team, and all the crew that you know, really prepared an amazing car this year. Just absolutely gutted that I won't be able to be driving it on Sunday, but looking forward to watching Graham do what he does. So yep, keep checking back, and I'll keep you updated on the progress.
So a 2-hour practice session here today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll talk about the finer details later on in this video, but at least for right now, let's take a look. It doesn't mean too much, but why not? We'll show them anyway. The fastest 6 drivers today after the 2-hour practice session. Takuma Sato, 2-time Indianapolis 500 winner, leads at 227 miles per hour. Ditto for Scott Dixon. Ganassi won 2 after practice. Will Power in 3rd. Uh-oh, he's gonna prove me wrong for doubting him. Alex Palou, the pole sitter, another Ganassi car, in 4th on the board. Kyle Kirkwood in 5th. He looked good in practice. He made some daring moves, one in particular on the outside of Catherine Legg. And 6th spot, Argentina rise up. Augustine Canapino was 6th fastest today. Now, I would add the caveat that he was in traffic most of the time, and a lot of guys got big toe laps today. Speed, not necessarily an indicator of whether or not you're going to win the Indianapolis 500, but everyone seems to be impressed with Canapino. So one of the great ways to experience the Indianapolis 500, if you cannot be here for the Indianapolis 500, is to listen to it on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. And I had the honor and the privilege to talk to my friend, the voice of the 500, Mark Jaynes. So I'm here with a person whose voice I almost guarantee you, if you're watching this channel, have heard at least once before in your life, but maybe you don't have a face to go with it. Now you're going to have a voice and a face. He's crazy enough to put me in the broadcast booth every now and then. Mark Jaynes, the voice of the Indianapolis 500.
Well, I'm sorry about the disappointment that goes along once you finally reveal this mug to your legions of fans. But yeah, God blessed me with a pretty good set of pipes, I guess. It served me well, you know.
So you are in the list of names here: Sid Collins, Paul Page, Bob Jenkins, to name a few. Your name is with them. Do you think about that a lot? I mean, that's got to be just some enormous pressure.
Well, it is a lot of pressure for sure, and quite frankly, it took me a couple of years to connect to the moniker, the voice of the 500, and it was kind of Paul Page who more or less threatened me with bodily harm. He said, look, you need to start owning that. I mean, you've earned it, and you deserve it, just like we all did. And, you know, I see this as my chapter in this book. This is not my radio network. It's our radio network. It's your network. It's the listeners' network. I just happen to have the driver's seat for now. Fortunately, I'm surrounded by some incredibly talented people who are more so than me, and just as passionate and just as enthusiastic, and very, very thankful and humbled. I mean, I didn't come from a big city. I'm a small town kid from rural Indiana who grew up listening to this thing. And, I thought 1 year as a pit reporter was all I needed for my bucket list. But house money for 27 years now, so I'm happy for sure. Thank you.
Well, you mentioned that radio. It really is a team sport. Explain, because I don't think a lot of people understand exactly how you guys cover an auto race, because it is fairly unique.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I guess I'm the conductor, for lack of a better term. We have the 4 turn announcers, and then we have 4 pit reporters. But behind the scenes, we have an engineer. We have a guy who handles our RF units for our pit reporters, make sure that's running well. I have a pit producer that communicates with our pit reporters during the race. I'm pointing to where he sits, by the way. And Brian Livingston, he's been here, I think, 40 years now. And so, in addition to that, Sam Rumsa is our master control operator. And then on top of that, we've got Chris Pollock, who keeps me abreast on what's going on with race control and keeping me honest on commercial breaks and things of that nature. So, I think in totality, we number probably 26 people to pull off the broadcast for race day here. Yeah.
So 26 people, 27 years of experience in your head working on the radio network. What are some of the big stories you guys are looking at covering for the 107th running of the 500?
Well, I got asked that question earlier, and I said, I think we have covered all of the stories going into the race, and I think the only story left to cover is the race. I mean, we've touched upon all of it. We've talked about how good Ganassi has been here. We've talked about Arrow McLaren and how good they've been here. We've followed the amazing story of A.J. Voigt Racing with Santino Ferrucci and Benjamin Peterson. We've also followed, this is TK's last race. The former winners, guys that can add to their legacy, favorites to get their first win, the Graham Rahal, Steph Wilson scenario. So again, I think we've covered all of that as you have, and I think now the only story left to cover is the one that's going to unfold before our very eyes on race day.
And we're looking forward to that. You guys do such a great job. And one thing that I want to really impress on my viewers, because I think you guys definitely are the best way to listen to the race.
Thank you.
And not only that, you're a free way to listen to the race. So tell everyone, live and free, where they can hear you across the globe.
Well, let's see. The Mixler app, the TuneIn app. We've got IndyCar.com, race control. We've got IndyCarRadio.com. And then, of course, terrestrial radio. We've got 200 and some odd affiliates all across this great nation of ours. And then I understand SiriusXM is a paid service, but as you know, if you wait till your subscription runs out, it's $21. You could talk them into $5 a month for the next year, which a lot of people do on 160. But we're pretty proud this year, too, that on a lot of those outlets that I just mentioned, from 10 to 11 Eastern, Nick Yeoman and Brad Gilley from PRN are going to set the stage for the greatest day in motorsports. They're going to preview the 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. Wow. They'll do that for an hour before we go on the air at 11 o'clock.
Holy smokes. Yeah. So, Mark Jaynes, you were one of the busiest men out here. Thanks for taking the time, and we are so excited to hear your beautiful work of art that you guys are going to produce on Sunday.
Well, you and I are not just co-workers and cohorts anymore. I mean, I consider you a friend, and we appreciate all that you do for motorsports, your passion and enthusiasm, you and all your crew, and we enjoy our relationship. It's mutually beneficial for sure.
We love it. Thank you, Mark, and those kind words. I mean, that's on record now, by the way. He said that, so you're going to have to live with those consequences.
I can. I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
So let's talk about some of the finer details of practice today. Thankfully, not nearly as eventful as last year's practice, which saw 2 crashes. David Malukas crashed last year, as well as Colton Herta had an absolutely massive flip in turn 1. We didn't see as many bad things happen today, which is good, but a lot of small issues plagued many teams. Marco Andretti started off the session leaking fluids. He did eventually get back out onto the racetrack, but it delayed him about 30 minutes. Ryan Hunter-Reay had to park the car early. I believe I heard the PA say he had an oil leak. Thankfully, they caught that. Carb Day traditionally is a leak check day. It's not usually supposed to be race conditions, though it's changed into that over the past few years. And it was an absolutely insane day today in terms of close competition and pack racing. Catherine Legg lost a wheel nut. Ironically, that's a Rahal car, very similar to a situation that took Graham Rahal out of the race while leading a couple of years ago. Catherine Legg continues to have a very difficult week. There's no doubt about it. Starting off on the wrong foot in a lot of ways, both on Monday and here on Friday. And finally, Devlin DeFrancesco probably had the most significant incident, though it did not involve wall contact. Actually had a cut tire, a cut right front tire, and thankfully was able to keep it off the wall, and everyone else was able to keep themselves off of Devlin. But yeah, an eventful day, but not as eventful as it was last year. Let me just say right off the bat, this Indianapolis 500 is going to be one of the most difficult in the history of the event to predict. Because at least from the practice, I mean, the last couple of years, you have about 3 or 4 guys you think, oh yeah, they're probably going to win this race. But this year, it is so much different. It's so much more difficult. At times, the pack seems extremely tight, and at other times, it seems like the pack is spread out. Tire wear is going to be a massive issue throughout this race. We've talked about it all week. We're going to see how it goes in the race, but you could see comers and goers in this race, and I think that's a very real possibility. Who can keep the tires, cars, fuel underneath them? That's always the factor here at the Indianapolis 500. On the subject of it being hard to predict, I'm going to give you a few names. I am not in a position to predict the winner yet. That'll be for tomorrow's video. But I'll give you some guys that I think look good today. Number 1 is Alex Palou, the pole sitter. I think that's the easy, boring pick, but boy, oh boy, did that car look strong at times when he was leading. The talk is that it's going to be a lot of leapfrogging positions 1 and 2. I mean, again, that's similar to what we've seen in years past, and by the way, I think the race is going to be similar to how we've seen it in years past. I don't think you're going to see a dramatic difference between this year's race and a lot of the races we've seen recently. You're going to need a new car, you're going to need some massive change to really affect the racing, and that's just not going to happen this year. So Alex Palou on the pole, that's a pretty good pick, I would say, if you're picking the 500. Scott Dixon looked extremely strong in traffic today, which I was kind of curious about Scott Dixon. In fact, I kind of felt like Dixon's going to be like a 5th place car in the 500. But after today, it sure looks like Scott is on a revenge tour. So we're going to see if he can break the Dixon curse. Felix Rosenqvist, they were confident enough to put that car in the barn early, do a lot of pit stop practice. He's on the front row, the outside of the front row, a lot of times will win the race. Felix Rosenqvist was leading late in last year's race. I think Frozone, Fief, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call Felix, I think Felix has really got a good shot this year. The only thing I have a concern with Felix Rosenqvist is at times when he qualifies up front, when he qualifies on the pole position, oftentimes he can't convert that into an Indy 500 race win. That's my biggest problem with Felix Rosenqvist. If let's say Ericsson or Will Power was having the month that Felix is having, I would have the utmost confidence that they could pull it off. But Felix, I still have that niggling doubt in the back of my head. Otherwise, I probably would have already picked him. Joseph Newgarden looks extremely strong. He did a lot of running at the front of the pack today, which would say and suggest to me that Tim Cindric, Joseph Newgarden, they expect that car to be running up at the front at some point during this race. And he was strong enough that he could pull away from the rest of the field. The only other car that I could see do that in a little bit of spurts was Alex Palou. If you can lead for more than 1 lap consecutively, I think that is a huge benefit for the Indianapolis 500, because let's say you take the lead with 2 laps to go, chances are no one's going to pass you. Rinus VeeKay. I think Rinus VeeKay has, once again, a very, very strong car. Now, I said that in 2022. In fact, he was one of my 3 final picks to win the race. I ultimately picked Alex Palou last year, but Rinus, much like Rosenqvist, the question is, can he finish the race? He's going to run up front. He's going to be competitive. He's going to be strong. He's run so many laps this year, in this month. They really seem to be working on consistency, long run speed. And so I think Rinus VeeKay, if he gets that figured out, if he can get to the 500-mile distance, he'll be in contention. And finally, Alexander Rossi. I'm going to keep saying it, even though people think I'm biased. And let me just say, if I were biased towards any drivers, perhaps you should look at the ones that appear on this channel regularly. Is Alexander Rossi one of those drivers? So you got to know that I'm telling you, I'm playing it down the line, okay, when I say things like that. And so, yeah, Rossi definitely has one of the strongest cars. He's got something to prove. He's always been fast here. There's no reason to not think that Alexander Rossi is going to be a contender for this thing. Am I going to pick him for the win? I don't know at this point, because the Ganassi cars look real strong. Newgarden looks real strong. VK looks real strong. There's a lot of strong cars in this field, a lot of strong drivers. So, I don't know yet. You'll have to wait until tomorrow to find that out. And I would also, I guess, throw out Ryan Hunter-Reay once again. When he was running today, they were running him in the front of the pack, kind of a similar Joseph Newgarden strategy. I think that the thought process for guys like Newgarden, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Connor Daly is to get up there in the front as quickly as possible and run with those leaders for as long as you can. So it is Carb Day. We have not... It's not quite the same. I will say we are so back, and if I haven't said this on a video yet, the Indy 500 has had some of the best crowds that I've ever seen here, and I've been coming to practice qualifying or race day since 2001. This is the most energy, the most people that I've seen. Fan-freaking-tastic, including Carb Day today. Just a great crowd. But we are missing something. We're missing a little something on Carb Day. So in today's history segment, we pay tribute to a legend of the Speedway that has been lost. It isn't Carb Day at Indianapolis unless we pay our proper respects to a legend of the Speedway who sadly is no longer with us. That legend is the Freedom 100, which proved that to be legendary at Indianapolis, you do not have to be a driver, a team owner, or an iconic car. The Freedom 100, more often than not, was a spectacle of its own, sometimes exceeding even the heights of the Indy 500. The Freedom 100 was a 100-mile, knockdown, drag-out sprint, designed as a way to gain young drivers valuable wheel-to-wheel super speedway experience in Indy Lights cars. The race was held every Carb Day from 2003 to 2019. Notable names who have won the race include Indy 500 starters Ed Carpenter, Colton Herta, Oliver Askew, Jack Harvey, and Joseph Newgarden. Newgarden's win in 2011 ironically serves as Joseph's only win at the Speedway to date. Former IndyCar Series driver Wade Cunningham holds the record for the most wins in the Freedom 100 with 3. The Freedom 100 is most fondly remembered for a constant string of photo finishes. In 2016, Dean Stoneman won the closest finish in the history of the Speedway at a winning margin of 24 ten-thousandths of a second. But fans are more likely to think of 2013 when they think of the Freedom 100. The 2013 Freedom featured one of the most famous finishes in the history of auto racing, which saw Peter Dempsey make a 4-wide pass on the final straightaway to win by 26 ten-thousandths of a second over Gabby Chavez, Sage Karam, and Carlos Munoz. Unfortunately, before the COVID-delayed Indy 500 in 2020, it was decided by Penske Entertainment that the Freedom 100 would be put on hiatus and has not returned since. Roger Penske himself stated that safety concerns about some of the major accidents in the race was one of the deciding factors, quoted by NBC Sports saying, "It's one word, safety. We can't just have those cars running at these speeds. A lot of people haven't had the experience of ovals." But despite Penske's reasoning, fans, drivers, and teams still clamor for what history shows as a short-lived but exceedingly legendary race. And that's why we at this channel wrote this ode, an ode to the Freedom 100. We love you, we miss you, and we desperately want you back. And it's Carb Day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a good day. Carb Night Classic tonight. USF cars, Indy Pro cars, pavement midgets. Silver Crown is going to go for 100 laps. The Hoosier 100 is back, though it's now on the pavement at Indianapolis Raceway Park, but we'll take what we can get. Silver Crown is cool. Then we got Saturday Legends Day. Not much happening here at the track, but we're going to have a race preview for you guys. I hope you'll tune in for that. And then obviously the 107th running of the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be exciting. It always is. The Indianapolis 500, the greatest race, the most dramatic race in the world. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.